Hey there, Jordan with Status Coup. Hope you're having a good day. It is Tuesday, May 17th, the year 2022. A lot going on. So we will be covering continued aftermath of the Buffalo terrorist attack by a white supremacist. Also have some clips where I don't know if I should tell you to get your popcorn or your tissues, because you could either cry or laugh. Some clips we have at some protests over Roe v. Wade, and a freelance journalist who did a great job doing interviews for us. So we'll have that in a little bit, and might even get to, there's a lot of folks now claiming that Republicans are the party of free speech. Particularly people even on the left are pretending that somehow Republicans are great on free speech. Well, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, might have something to say about that, because I don't hear the free speech warriors very loud right now about Governor DeSantis and his shenanigans down in Florida. So we'll get into that. Please smash that like button, thumbs up button right under the live stream. The more people that press like, the more people that will see this very live stream. Appreciate it. I was also on Rising with The Hill this morning, so you could check that out on The Hill's YouTube channel. Appreciate being invited on. We talked about the midterms, and there are some elections tonight in Pennsylvania and some other places, so we'll get to that tomorrow. But I just recorded an interview a little while ago. First, I tried to record an interview with Carrie L. Horn. She is, if you don't know, a officer, former police officer in Buffalo, a black police officer who was fired many years ago because she stopped a white officer from choking a black man to death. And the Buffalo Police Department fired her for stopping that white officer for choking a black man to death. I interviewed her. She's in Buffalo still. Unfortunately, she was in a coffee shop and it was way too loud. So we're going to try to fix that if we can. But I interviewed another organizer and activist in Buffalo, because since the shooting on Saturday, there have been a lot of copycat threats and other things going on in Buffalo. Obviously, the discussion has kind of gone on to Tucker Carlson and Fox News and that kind of stuff. But Buffalo right now has threats of copycat attacks. So I definitely want to play that first. Here is my interview with an activist in Buffalo. His name was Harper Bishop. Jordan, delighted to be joined by Harper Bishop. You're a Buffalo organizer and activist, and obviously Buffalo is still in our thoughts. I actually interviewed Carrie L. Bishop, who is a former police officer in Buffalo, who unfortunately was fired for doing the right thing many years ago. She was a black police officer who stopped a white officer from choking out a black man. But unfortunately, during the interview, she was in a coffee shop and couldn't hear her because so much stuff going on. So thanks for jumping in so that we have somebody from Buffalo on. I wanted to start, obviously we can get to kind of how the community is responding, but there's still been threats since Saturday, copycat threats at various places. Can you kind of tell us what activists, community members have been hearing there?
Yeah, so first I want to start by saying that this in itself is a copycat shooting, that we know that there have been deadly shootings in 2015, Charleston, South Carolina, in a black church, Christchurch, a mosque in New Zealand, a synagogue in Pittsburgh recently, in recent years, and then a Walmart in a Latinx or Hispanic neighborhood in El Paso as well. So we know that the shooters and the white supremacy and racism that is permeating our culture is just being built upon. So I just want to first and foremost say that this in itself is a copycat incident. And then there have been several incidences over the weekend, starting, I think, Sunday morning, when people were still reeling, completely heart stricken, sick to their stomachs, in painful grief, angered at what had just transpired here in Buffalo, New York. And then they have to wake up to a True Bethel Baptist Church, TBBC. People were, which is a predominantly Black congregation. There was a man who turned out to have a mental illness or mental health situation who yelled out that he had a gun. Since the governor and other dignitaries were at the church at the time, he was tackled and taken out of the church pretty immediately. That's followed by whether credible or now I've seen as not credible threats. The Amherst police were disturbed to find that on social media there was a post that said from 4 to 8 p.m. at different locations, including a Walmart, a Sam's Club, and other Tops in Western New York, that Blacks would again be targeted by white supremacists. Those threats were taken very seriously. I was in a meeting with leaders of color at the time when those threats were made. They immediately got text messages and phone calls from people who were absolutely concerned with where they were, if they had heard, and how to spread the word as quickly as possible. The community used word of mouth. They used text messaging and other ways of getting the word out to let people know that this was happening. And also we're not trying to exacerbate it by putting it on social media so as to, make it a bigger, more credible threat than it already was, and to, again, give the white supremacists the space to terrorize the community in yet another way. And that is what is exactly happening in our community, is that everyone is on high alert right now, particularly people in the Black community who are being targeted and hunted like animals. People going into a grocery store and immediately targeting. The reason that we have the shooter picking that Tops grocery store is because of the hyper segregation in our city and the Black neighborhood that he was able to target, and said that he had thought about schools, churches and other places, but really wanted to indoctrinate and engender violence and make even the most mundane, errand make Black folks scared. And that is the definition of terrorism. If I've ever heard it, right, is that wherever you go, you feel the threat that, you're under. So those threats have been seen by law enforcement. The FBI has also been monitoring them as well. A school board member that went on to Today, where the Buffalo Public Schools, there were threats and phone calls of whether or not there were credible threats to the Buffalo Public Schools. And children and teachers alike are already trying to have a really difficult conversation about what our community is going through. So to try to sift through all of this at the same time, while people are still experiencing terrorism and threats in our community, is despicable, and I condemn it, in all its forms.
So you have Walmart, Sam's Club, other Tops groceries, schools, and I would have to imagine another concern is, Buffalo itself has its own white supremacy problem. So you don't know if it's people from, out of the city, in the city. Obviously, most copycat threats are fake, but you don't know if one of them is real. Can you kind of talk about that in terms of, I know you're not Black, but just it has to be a concern for the community there that there are white supremacist forces there in the city.
I want to thank you for bringing that up and for speaking to it directly. People would want us to believe that these are folks who came from 3.5 hours away, that this is one individual, first of all. But of course, I think the community believes that this is a network of individuals and that this is not a sort of a fringe mentality, but actually has become part of the mainstream Republican speaking points. Tucker Carlson, the New York Times, recently did kind of an expose on how many times he has brought up various ideologies, replacement theory being one of them, and it is hundreds of points that he in conversations and in different shows in which he has brought that up. You're absolutely right that we should not externalize this and say that this is some far off ideology that has come into our community, but rather that there has been a heightened sense and there have been people who have been power mapping and keeping, researching pretty vigilantly the rise in white supremacist organizations, Proud Boys, people who have been marching both in the suburbs and first ring suburbs and mostly white suburbs in Western New York, but also have come, to make their presence known in Niagara Square and have had Erie County officials from the sheriff's office to well-known real estate developers like Carl Palladino, elected officials like Stephen Mahailu, and others who are white nationalists and who are spouting anti-immigrant, anti-Black, and anti-Semitic ideologies in the streets of Buffalo and in Western New York. So to say that this is a person not from our community and that we are, quote, a loving community, as Mayor Brown has said in recent press conferences, is not fact-based. It's not true. We do have a racist and white supremacist uptick and problem that needs to be addressed and continues to not be addressed, whether it's the power elite, the Black establishment, our elected leaders, all the way down. And we see this, in this moment, really the symptoms of not addressing this in both our city, our region, and our country is the reason that we're seeing this over and over again, and then claiming that we don't know what to do, and we throw our hands up and we say thoughts and prayers. The people here are angry. They're disgusted. Black Buffalonians do not feel safe, even to go out to a grocery store in this moment. And that's on me as a white person to address that and to take on the challenge of addressing and upending white supremacy culture once and for all.
And lastly, obviously this kid did what he did on his own, but you have, the number one rated TV news host, essentially stuff Tucker Carlson says mirrors what this kid wrote. Is he directly responsible? No. Is it really, really problematic that the top rated TV news host and his network, not just their network, but plenty of other right-wing sites, this and that, are basically replicating this bullshit and dangerous rhetoric about invaders and legacy Americans are under attack? Defenders and people seem to be twisting themselves into pretzels to defend Tucker Carlson, focusing on whether he's directly responsible without actually focusing on, isn't it really concerning that such a public figure who's reaching probably 15 to 20 million people a week on Fox News sounds exactly like this terrorist?
No, I completely agree with you. I think that you're absolutely right. We cannot contort ourselves. I continue to believe every time that we have this moment in our country's history, we make these contortions instead of having the great reckoning that James Baldwin and others said that white Americans specifically have to have in order to remedy the situation. I would even also point to this morning, I was enraged, quite frankly. It's not just the Murdochs or the Fox Newses and those people who we know are, of course, perpetuating the same talking points, but it's also people, it's more innocuous in ways, but it's also the Buffalo News. It's it's our local media outlets who during a mayoral primary was dripping with misogynoir. It's the endorsements of real estate developers like Carl Palladino that we, the people, had to remove from the Board of Education because of his transphobia, racism, queerphobia, misogyny. It's every time they do an op-ed in which, even in the wake of this, they are asking questions. That editorial board said, "Why is this happening? We have no idea. We have to search for answers in the coming days." Juxtapose that with Rolling Stone that said, "White supremacy is why this happened." It's, the outlets that you've discussed. It's the mainstreaming of this narrative and this rhetoric that has caused this moment. We don't need to search for the answers, and yet they're still covering their asses. They're still pretending like we don't know why this happened. And so I would say look even closer to home and look to even the localized version of those media outlets that are parroting points while still saying self-righteously that we stand and we mourn with the community and we'll be there, and they'll make donations and they'll write that check, but they'll never address the systemic racism and institutional racism that's going to lead to the real changes that we need for a better Buffalo and for a better United States.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time, Harper Bishop, and thoughts with you guys. That was Harper Bishop, activist and organizer there in Buffalo. Smash that like button, thumbs up right under the live stream. The more people that press like, the more people that will see this. Super chats are welcome. I'll read them at the end. I know that they're going to be having a pretty big rally in Buffalo this coming weekend. So we're going to see if we could get some footage from there. Obviously, this is not going away. I actually put up a poll during that interview asking, when is the media going to stop covering this in Buffalo or just stop covering the white supremacy threat that basically they helped elevate by giving Donald Trump $4 to $5 billion in free airtime a couple years ago. As of now, the poll, I gave the option, the media will stop caring in 2 days and stop covering the exploding white supremacy threat and terror attack, or a week. Right now, only 48 people voted. What are you doing? Vote in the poll. 58% say the media will stop caring in 2 days. 42% said the media will stop caring in 1 week. I'm going to go with 2 days. You will not hear any more of this, and Tucker Carlson and Fox News will go back to doing what they do. So we'll continue covering the aftermath of Buffalo. And also, I think it's important to say, as I pointed out yesterday, when I was on with Ty, white supremacy, it's not just replacement theory. It's not just overt Nazism. There is corporate supremacy. The Democratic Party and neoliberalism helps elevate white supremacy through basically, redlining that has gone on over the years. Banks handing out, with mostly white wealthy CEOs and boards doing predatory lending towards Black and brown people, higher interest rates towards Black and brown people. You could go down the list. During the 2008-2009 financial crash, Black and brown people were hit the hardest in terms of foreclosures because they were disproportionately preyed on with these junk mortgages by the banks. I mean, we could go on and on and on. So it's not just Nazism. It's not just Tucker Carlson's batshit, disgusting replacement theory rhetoric that people like Glenn Greenwald and others are twisting themselves into pretzels to defend, which is nauseating. And I don't really care if I lose people by saying that. There is institutional white supremacy in this country. Joe Biden's been a part of it. Crime Bill Joe, palling around with Strom Thurmond while he was a senator. Credit Card Joe. He was called senator from MBNA, a bank in Delaware that also preyed on Black and brown homeowners. So white supremacy comes in a lot of different shades and colors. So we'll stay on this, covering it. It is systemic. A sharp turn to a different topic. We've been covering the Roe v. Wade protests that have been going on around the country. Obviously, Supreme Court, due to a leak, it's clear that they, at this moment, it looks like they're going to overturn Roe v. Wade. That is a massive, massive threat to millions of women around the country. Rich women will still be able to get an abortion. Poor women will not. We're probably headed back to the back alley abortion days. So independent journalist Louis DeAngelis, who's been doing some freelance work for us, he's based in Austin, Texas. He just went down to cover protests for Roe v. Wade, as well as a Trump rally in Austin, and had some interesting conversations. Colin, let's start with the, shall we say, white trash gentleman who had some friendly suggestions for women on what they could do, if Roe v. Wade is overturned.
A Trump rally in Austin. Some pro-choice folks just showed up. You're pretty animated a second ago. I just want to give you a chance to explain your position and where you are on it.
When they were pushing, my body, my choice, but yet they were pushing vaccine mandates, and nobody's banning abortions. The law is just going to go back to the state if it's overturned. So, nobody's banning anything.
So the one thing I will say is here in Texas, there is a trigger law. So in Texas, abortions in all cases will become illegal if this goes through.
Be.
So you think it should be illegal?
It should be illegal.
Gotcha.
All the way. Yeah.
Fully, no exceptions?
No exceptions.
No exceptions for even incest or rape or anything like that?
No.
Gotcha. So you mentioned the mandates and things like that. The one kind of criticism that folks will give of the Republican Party and on this issue is that the Republican Party is supposed to be the small government party, right, in general? Wanting small government?
I believe in small government.
Right.
I believe in very few government, actually.
Right. Yeah. So why do you think then, in this case, that the government should be getting involved in telling women what they can do?
I really don't want the government involved in anything, but
it's a tricky one, right? Because it sounds like you want them to be involved in saying that it's not okay.
But these people don't know even what they're fighting for, so they're just shouting for no reason, basically. Nobody's banning anything. Like, it's up to the states. It should be.
Right.
If you want to, then do it. If you don't, then don't. There's going to be abortion sanctuaries all across the country, so somebody wants to do it, then go do it.
And that sentiment is real. Like there are going to be plenty of states where it will be legal. The tricky situation, though, is that it's going to affect low-income women who can't travel to those places, and rich women will be able to do whatever they want to because they can travel.
That's not true, though.
How would a low-income woman in Austin travel to a state where abortion is legal if she needed it?
I'm sure there's grants for that.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know? I don't know.
I don't know, but that's not a good thing that we don't know, because it should be pretty obvious if they're about to lose their right there. I don't know.
Well, Planned Parenthood was helping.
He's saying that abortion saves lives.
Right.
How?
Right. I guess one final question for you, and I'll let you give your answer as well, too.
Go
ahead, sorry.
Look, he was, so.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
One final question for you. So if we should be carrying babies to term, what happens with mothers who can't afford to, they're having an abortion because they're in a tough financial situation? We've got a backlog of kids in the foster care system right now. What's the solution there?
Don't open your legs. There's other forms of contraception other than abortion. Abortion should not be your number one choice for contraception.
Right. All right.
There's condoms, there's things for women, there's abstinence, there's anal.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to boy. So that was Lewis. Great work. We're gonna have another interview with him in a few minutes. So there's a couple things on this gentleman. God. Number one, and this is a great question. So he asked them, I thought all of you guys and gals were about small government, yet you want the government to be deciding life, what women could do, this and that. So he said, yeah, I don't want the government to do anything. And then when Lewis brought up, but you want them to rule over abortions, he said, yeah, well, it should be illegal. So what this crystallizes, and I've seen it on the road over the years, most of these Republicans actually don't have any core principles. There is no core principles, whether on the ground level at rallies and among supporters or among these politicians. Ted Cruz is a constitutionalist, right? Strict constitutionalist. Only when Obama has an opportunity to appoint Supreme Court Justice Merrick Garland, then forget the Constitution, even though the Constitution says the president has an obligation to appoint a Supreme Court Justice. So none of these people actually have any core principles. They don't care about small government. They want the government big, bold. If it basically rams through their Christian fundamentalist, misogynistic lunacy. That's the kind of government they want. Secondly, when he said there's grants for that, there's grants for women if you can't afford it. There's grants. Just go to your local nonprofit, fill out the paperwork, wait a couple weeks or months to see if your grant is approved. While obviously you can't get an abortion past a certain amount of time. So hell, that would be one hell of a grant making process. Just the idiocy, absolute idiocy. And smash that like button. Press the like button, share this live stream. And then, of course, the gross, just don't open your legs. Don't open your legs. Anal. Not judging anyone. People should do whatever position or, they want. But I just found it incredibly interesting because if he's telling women, don't open your legs, well, don't men play a role in the conception process? Don't men play a role in the conception process? So by his standard, if certain women who are too poor to get an abortion, shouldn't then we say, men, pull up your pants, don't unzip your pants? I mean, hell, I'm not down with that. We all like to have a good time. But by his standard, if poor women to him don't open your legs or do anal, then we should be telling the men with those women, hey, sorry, get the Jergens. Don't pull down your pants though. You could get the Jergens, you could do it by yourself, but you cannot open that woman's legs or unzip your zipper. It's just absolutely, wait 9 months for your grant to come through. Thank you. It's just absolutely disgusting. But if that wasn't enough for you, Lewis did another interview. And although this one was more over the top, this one is equally as cringe. So let's take a listen. He interviewed a nice couple, I believe, outside a Trump rally. And the gentleman had also suggestions for women on, abortion and if Roe v. Wade is overturned. And wouldn't you know, if you're a female watching, it's actually you're going to get a free trip. You're going to get a free trip once the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. Let's take a listen where you're going, women.
Okay, you're good.
Show 'em, James, did you bring this? Show them this thing right here.
Oh yeah.
Show 'em this. I've got a Mount Trump. I've shown 38 of these.
Okay.
And they're not going to let me bring it, but I can take orders.
Wow.
It's
Can we show it to the camera?
Sure. Oh yeah.
Can you see that? Yeah. All right. That's wow.
Trace Guthrie.
There you go.
Put my name out and they can look me up.
He's a fighter.
Two quick last ones for you here. Number one, today at the same time as this and later, you'll probably see some of it here. There are pro-choice rallies happening here in Austin. One of them is scheduled to end here at the end. I guess, where are you guys on that issue? And what do you think of the recent news with it?
They need to realize that they're not going to lose the rights to abort their grandchildren and their girlfriends. They can fly. They're going to get free tickets to California, get a hotel room, and they even probably going to get tickets to Disneyland. So I tell my buddies, I say, hey, look, if you're worried about that, don't worry. Your grandkids will still get their abortions, they'll get a trip to Disneyland because they'll fly them out there. So that's what's going to happen. They're just moved to other states. Yeah, it's kind of.
Who's going to fly them out there?
The tax dollars of California are already talking about that.
Right.
They're going to fly them out there to kind of say in your face, well, that's just the way it is.
Right, because a lot of the concerns of folks in Texas, so Texas is one of the states with a trigger law. So if indeed this leaked Supreme Court decision does go into effect, abortion is, there's no case in Texas where an abortion would be legal, even in the case of rape or incest.
That's going to be hard. That will be hard because there are
and that's
some
reality.
cases.
Yeah.
Or
it's going to be hard.
Life. I think if a mother.
Right. So the issue is in some of them are more or less extreme than others, but it's not one state where that's the case. And the issue is like a wealthy woman is going to be fine in that case, but a woman who doesn't have any money to potentially go and take time off of work to go travel somewhere to do it because she's living hand to mouth is going to do that. And that's what I think a lot of the folks, especially here, are concerned about.
Hey, it's great. It really is great. Thing is, do you they passed a law in New York, I believe, where if the water breaks the woman, they can reach up there with that sharp tube and suck the brains out of that child.
I don't think anyone's really advocating for that. I haven't met someone who says
But
I
they
want
can do
that to be the case.
They can do it. That's the deal. You can abortion any time, and boy, they say they don't, but there's a black market to sell those body parts. I mean, look what they can do with the body parts. They can sell them. Look, I got diabetes. That would probably help me with all the experimentation of all those organs of those babies that come out. Yeah, it's a tough problem.
Yeah,
I've known people that have gone through the abortions and it is it's a bad place to be. But they need to interview some of these girls after they have their abortions when they grow up a little bit. You know, it can cause some real psychological problem. I don't have the answer on that deal. But yeah, it's killing babies is bad.
I think it's murder.
Killing babies is
at
bad.
any point.
Yes.
Well,
I do.
When a Jewish law is if a baby is breached and it's going to kill the mother, you rip that baby out and God will put the soul in another human being. That's their teaching.
So you think that they should carry a...
No, you can. They can kill the baby if the woman...
That's what you think.
Yeah.
What do I think?
Yeah.
An abortion?
Yeah.
You're talking about...
Right, where do you think
give me the question.
Where do you think the limit is then? You know, obviously, like, if this goes through in Texas, it's not okay at all. Like, do you support them overturning Roe versus Wade? And whether you do or not, where do you think is the limit for you? I mean, what's okay and what's not?
That question goes both ways. You know, when do you kill a child? Yeah, that's a tough one. But they talk about it being a zygote and all. You know, the DNA and the complexity of a human cell is beyond. It's more complex than all the wire of a city in one tiny cell and all. I'm not in power. I know that one of the Psalms. It says that God knows that child when it was in the womb. You know, that's religion. You know, and if it's religion,
state is a little wishy-washy there, though, in the Constitution and separation.
It ain't wishy-washy. There is no. You do not force religion on anybody.
Right.
You do not. That's called
Freedom
you separate. You don't have like in England.
Yeah.
You don't take people and make them follow a Protestant, Catholic, or whatever, Rastafarian, whatever you want.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's Daily Life. Yeah, how about that? And by the way, kudos to Lewis. I mean, that's a skill. That's a skill to interview loony people, cringe people, and just keep a straight face and keep going. I had to really work on that over the years. So let's start with the most galling. He is spending 5 minutes basically telling women what to do, but cheer up, you're getting a trip to Disneyland, but then says there's no place to impress your religion on others. So you can't force your religion on others, but ladies, get your ticket to Disney World. You're having an abortion. Contradictions galore. And by the way, in the poll I just put up, does this man have mental illness or hasn't been laid in 5 years? With 50 votes so far, mental illness at 62%. Not that we're minimizing mental illness, of course. Mental illness at 62%, hasn't been laid in 5 years, 39%. True, I did not give the both option. I'll do that next time because a lot of people said both. You just really can't make this up. And honestly, hate to pick on the wife here, but the wife is just standing there as this misogynistic scum is saying, hey, ladies, don't worry. You're going to get a free trip to Disneyland out of it too. Maybe, hey, while we're at it, we'll bring you to Napa Valley when you get your abortion. Maybe they should talk to the other guy who said, yeah, there's grants for that. There's grants for that. Because apparently California is going to pay for all these women to come from Texas and elsewhere to go to Disneyland. Colin, can you come on for a second? So this is your state, is that correct? Texas?
Oh yeah, I guess it is.
Yes, this is in Austin, Texas. So is this an anomaly here? Is this an exception? Are these people representing Texas accurately? Because I'm a little troubled by both the gentleman who seems to think no problem, just do anal or don't open your legs, or the other ones that are just telling you, take a trip to Disneyland, everything will be all right?
See, I'm lucky where I get to. I'm still somewhat in that Austin bubble where it's not too bad. But yeah, once it's funny because I've been around people and stuff like that where that type of language and stuff like that. I've heard so much so that it comes across probably so often here in Texas that it just runs over me at this point when I come across those types of interactions. And I know, especially working in the customer service field before doing this, it is definitely a colorful group of characters over here.
Yeah, it's crazy. And by the way, let's just keep it real here. You think Democrats are going to run on this? Democrats are going to run on this to try and bring out women. Obviously, they can't even give you funding for COVID. Literally, they stopped funding uninsured people for COVID testing and vaccines. They can't even give you checks beyond a measly $1,400 check during a pandemic. You think they're going to be paying for women from Texas and elsewhere, any woman who needs to come to California? Yeah, okay, I hear it. Oh, they're coming up with funds, this and that. When the election's over, good luck having Democratic governors providing funding for every woman who needs to travel for an abortion, not to mention any treatment they might need for the abortion or aftercare. Democrats are very pro-choice and, very LGBTQ. They wave the flags, they put on the buttons. But financially, you think Democrats are covering this? Give me a break. Grant money was used for COVID testing. I mean, the stupidity of these people. We also had a cameraman cover a anti-choice. I should stop calling it pro-life. Anti-choice rally and pro-life, pro-choice rally in DC, where, shocker, the anti-choice people kind of took over. Let's play some of that. This was Saturday.
This future. For too long, this country has allowed a small but loud group from the religious right to dominate the narrative around abortion and religion, claiming that abortion access is a violation of religious freedom. So we ask them, whose religious freedom are you trying to protect?
Reproductive rights. A woman's right to choose.
Choose life and live. I'm so happy your mom did abortion. I am.
That's nothing to do with it. Nothing to do.
So what you doing with colonization? Let's study Jesus. Don't study the colonization.
Nothing to
You can't touch it. You can't touch. Jesus saves. Jesus loves you.
Did he save the children at Pullibar? Did he save the children? Righteous hypocrite.
Jesus loves you.
Righteous hypocrite.
I love you. I love you. You can't do nothing about it. I love you.
You love your faith and whatever that.
I love Jesus. I love Jesus.
She was complete before she was pregnant. She's complete after she's pregnant. The womb exists for the child. The womb still exists for the purpose of the preborn child. No, nobody's home when they're dead. That's why I shouldn't kill.
So we live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we work with an organization called Rehumanize International. That is a secular, nonpartisan human rights organization that is dedicated to abolishing violence in all forms against all people from conception to natural death.
And so, what does like an ideal abortion policy look like to you guys?
So I think that abortion needs to be illegal. We understand the scientific reality that abortion kills a human being. We know that at conception or fertilization, what we have is a genetically distinct, whole, living human being. And so when I say that abortion is wrong, I really don't feel as though that is any kind of position outside of just murder is wrong. Killing people, whether they're born or unborn, should be illegal. And so we believe that abortion should be illegal in all cases, elective abortion. Things like miscarriage management or treatment for ectopic pregnancies should, of course, be exempt, as they always are in pro-life legislation. However, we do see some fear-mongering going on from the media and from the abortion lobby and the abortion industrial complex, saying that people are trying to ban things like abortion in the case of an already dead child, which would be a DNC and miscarriage management. However, we oppose all elective abortion, the intentional killing of a human being.
Respect a woman. I love women. No. Respect a woman. You're talking about loving women. No. Respect a woman. Respect her right to choose what she wants to do.
I'm pro-choice.
Respect. You're pro-choice.
I'm pro-choice.
So you're okay if someone chooses abortion?
No, listen. Let me answer.
No.
Let me answer.
Are you
I heard the question. I heard the
someone
question.
who chooses abortion?
What I understand when you say you're pro-choice, it's a choice whether it's going to be a live baby or a dead baby.
It's not a baby until after birth.
God said he knew you before you were conceived in your
God
womb.
doesn't exist, so leave God out of this. Let's talk about science. Do you respect a woman's choice to
I'm
choose?
glad your mom didn't abort you. I'm glad. You're beautiful. Look at your eyes.
Over and over.
Look at your eyes. I'm so glad your mom didn't abort you.
She didn't.
Your mom's pro-life. Your mom's pro-life.
No, she is
She had
pro-human
you.
being. Pro-human being.
I believe in pro-choice. A woman has a choice.
You respect a
Let
woman
me
who
tell you.
chose abortion.
Let me tell you, a woman has a choice to make it a live baby or dead baby. It's a baby.
No, it isn't a baby. That's the whole thing. Let's look at science, not some fake God.
So what's the problem? Why are you here?
I don't have to know you to love you, just like I don't have to know you to hate you. I love you. You can't do nothing about it. I love you. I love
Nobody
you.
asked for that.
She said she doesn't like me. I told her I love her. And I love all you guys.
No one cares.
I love all of them.
Nobody cares. Why are you okay?
Well, if nobody cares, why y'all over here? Go somewhere else. You care. You care.
Jesus would be here with us. Jesus would be here with us.
Push that shit on me. I don't give a fuck.
Jesus would be here with us.
You don't care.
Jesus standing with
Oh,
women.
bad, man.
Jesus stood with women. Jesus stood with women.
Jesus
stood with women. Jesus stood with women.
I would say that this is a human rights issue, and human rights don't divide based on party, and they don't divide based on religious belief or non-religious belief. It is based on human rights and the right to live free from violence, and my fellow pro-lifers who are religious, they're more than welcome to join us in that movement, and I know that I am just as welcome in their space as well, because this is a human rights issue, and we are no longer going to be killing children just because we think it's more cost-effective than keeping them alive.
He is the creator, and only he can take life, either him or someone who acts in accordance with his principles. We kill the guilty, not the innocent.
So, yeah, you can watch that whole video if you want. It's up on the channel. You got to love that Jesus loves you guy telling you I'm pro-choice. If choice of woman to have their babies. We're in deep doo-doo, folks. We're in deep doo-doo. And the truth is, right now, you have a choice between an extremist, growingly white supremacist, hands-made tale Republican Party and a corrupt, neoliberal, woke, warmongering Democratic Party. It's a pretty horrible choice we're in. And I honestly can't really blame people for choosing neither. Because at the end of the day, Democratic Party has really emboldened this, in my opinion. We wouldn't even be sitting here talking about this right now if President Obama had a fucking spine and would have gone scorched earth on Mitch McConnell when Mitch McConnell took the unprecedented step to block Obama from appointing a Supreme Court justice. We wouldn't even be sitting here right now. If that were the case, you probably would have had a 5-4 Republican Supreme Court, and John Roberts would likely be the deciding vote on this. And as we know now, he is with the liberals on this. He does not want to overturn Roe v. Wade. But the Democratic Party did not fight and did not go scorched earth against Mitch McConnell in 2016 when Mitch McConnell blocked this. They could have. Democratic Party, Obama said one of the first priorities he was going to have was to codify Roe v. Wade. He had a near supermajority in Congress. Didn't lift a finger. Nancy Pelosi, a couple years ago, when asked, said not a priority. So, of course, the Republicans are extremists. We have Christian fundamentalist loons running the country. But the Democratic Party has emboldened them, has helped facilitate this. So we are where we are. And thank you for the super chat. Double K, 1999. Das Bosch Fleiss, $4.99. Maybe this is a solution for Amazon drivers who need to urinate or defecate. Just don't open your legs. That is a good one. That is a good one. Yeah, it's dark days. And as of now, it does look like, from what reports, that the Supreme Court might overturn this sometime in June or July. Polls show that now abortion is tying with the economy for the top issue in the election. However, even though abortion is most likely going to bring out more women that might have voted previously, it might bring out more suburban women than might have voted previously. I can't say I think it's going to bring out enough people for the Democrats if they don't do a goddamn thing that they promised outside of it. Canceling student loan debt. Biden has done nothing on healthcare. He ran on a public option. Crickets. Ran on a $15 minimum wage. Crickets. Now there's reports that he's tortured. He's tortured over canceling student loan debt. $10,000 he's tortured about. If he cancels $10,000 in student loan debt, watch the Republican tidal wave, because that ain't bringing out young people. Nope. It's not going to bring out young people. They could paint it as historic if they want. That's not going to bring out enough young people to beat this Republican tidal wave. Not at all. Keep smashing that like button. Share this live stream. A couple more super chats would be appreciated. Let me also, before we go, I want to touch on one other story, Colin. Ron DeSantis, Governor DeSantis in Florida. You know, it's incredible to me because you have the free speech absolutists. You know, Glenn Greenwald says he's a free speech absolutist, and he's, always ranting about Democratic Party censorship, which, he should be. Democratic Party is trying to censor. Other pseudo-leftists are ranting that the Republican Party is now the party of free speech. I've heard that from Jimmy Dore, among others. They seem kind of silent on the fact that Governor Ron DeSantis, infamous now for the Don't Say Gay bill, the Stop Woke Act in Florida, he has now created a law to ban protesting in front of people's homes. Colin, if you have this from The Guardian, Florida signs bill into law banning protests outside homes. Protests outside homes are now banned in Florida after the state's right-wing Republican governor, Ron DeSantis, signed a bill into law prohibiting such demonstrations. DeSantis is both an ally and potential 2024 rival to Trump, is a rising star in Republican circles as he courts the party's right-wing base. A prepared statement from DeSantis on the bill signing on Monday cited liberal picketing outside the homes of conservative U.S. Supreme Court justices following the leak on May 2nd of the coming overturning of Roe v. Wade. The protests outside justices' homes generally have been peaceful and within bounds of U.S. Constitution's First Amendment, which guarantees citizens the right to freely express themselves and assemble peacefully. Nonetheless, DeSantis' statement labeled those protesting for the protection of abortion rights as, quote, unruly mobs. Quote, sending unruly mobs to private residences like we have seen with the angry crowds in front of the homes of Supreme Court justices is inappropriate. This bill would provide protection to those living in residential communities, and I'm glad to sign it into law. Florida's ban on so-called residential picketing won passage in the state's House of Representatives and the Senate by vote of 76-41 and 28-3, respectively. It would call for It would go into effect in October and calls for those found guilty of breaking the law to face up to 60 days in jail, as well as a maximum fine of $500. Yeah, let me tell you something. If I want a free speech hero, the Trump mini-me is who I'm going to go to. I got to tell you something, and I addressed it yesterday with Glenn Greenwald's insane defense of Tucker Carlson, which was pathetic, and we've lost subscribers over it, but I don't really give a damn. It's really becoming a five alarm fire trend where leftists, all because I guess it's to them, you could only bash the Democratic Party and everything you cover should be the corruption of the Democratic Party. And no matter what, you need to tie everything to the corruption of the Democratic Party. The Buffalo shooter. We got to tie it to the Azov battalion in Ukraine and the Democratic Party funding the Azov battalion in Ukraine, even though it has nothing to do with it. Even though the symbol that the Buffalo shooter, the black sun symbol that he used, is not unique at all to the Ukraine Azov battalion. It's used by Nazis all over the world, even though it had nothing to do with it. Leftist takeaway was somehow the Buffalo shooting. The big takeaway from that was we're funding Nazis in Ukraine. Then you have leftists who are propping up Marjorie Taylor Greene because Jimmy, too, he did a live stream on this because she did a speech on the House floor against sending more money to Ukraine. They kind of left out the fact that literally Marjorie Taylor Greene invested in Lockheed Martin a day before in March, a day before ranting against a profitable war in Russia and Ukraine. Let me repeat. The Republican that Jimmy and others have been propping up recently as, oh my God, the Democratic Party has been out-lefted by Marjorie Taylor Greene, literally invested in Lockheed Martin at the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war, and then a day before smashing this profitable war. Yeah, but let's prop up Marjorie Taylor Greene and Greenwald and Dorr and all these people. Oh, the Democratic Party is the enemy of free speech. Democratic Party is the party of censorship. I guess they kind of didn't look at the law Ron DeSantis pushed to make it literally legal for Floridians to run over protesters in Florida. Man, that's the kind of free speech I love. Ron DeSantis has pushed the law in Florida to make it legal for Floridians to run over protesters they don't like in Florida. Republicans have done that in other states too. Ron DeSantis, Colin, if you have this too, Ron DeSantis has literally just created an election police unit. DeSantis signs bill creating one of the nation's only election police units. You know who have election police units? Mexican drug cartels and Mexico's presidents. They put out election police to intimidate voters. Ron DeSantis, to fight voter fraud and keep election integrity, has an election police unit. And now banning protesting in residential areas. So I guess, in a sense, DeSantis is banning protesting outside his house or Marco Rubio's house or Governor Rick Scott's house. Or, I don't know, if one of these Democrats win, Debbie Wasserman Schultz's home. Can't protest outside Debbie Wasserman Schultz's home. I'm sure she's in a nice gated community, according to Ron DeSantis. These are the free speech heroes. But interestingly enough, free speech absolutist Glenn Greenwald, Jimmy Dore, a lot of other channels that kiss off their ass and essentially just kiss their ring and defend them. And they've been, all these channels focusing on the Democratic Party is the party of censorship and free speech, anti-free speech. I'm very much waiting for their coverage of Ron DeSantis banning protests in residential areas or Ron DeSantis election police. I must have been sleeping through their coverage of Ron DeSantis pushing a law to make it legal to run over protesters. I don't know. Colin, could you come back? Am I crazy, Colin? Am I crazy, or are there 24 hours in a day? Are there 24 hours in a day?
Most of the time, technically. Leap
Yes.
years might get weird.
So if you are a big YouTube host or tweeter or Substack person, if there's 24 hours in a day, is there theoretically enough hours to call out Democratic censors, the Democratic Party trying to censor free speech, the Democratic Party warmongering, the Democratic Party, basically trying to do away with critics, the Democratic Party creating this position, the Ministry of Truth. Is there enough hours in the day to call out that if you're a free speech absolutist while also challenging Governor DeSantis, who, by the way, I didn't even mention, throws out journalists out of press conferences? Routinely throws out journalists out of press conferences before they can even challenge him. Is there enough time in the day to do both, where you could criticize both and not pretend that one is so much worse than the other, and kind of just by silence and not covering Ron DeSantis's fascism and censorship, make it seem like Republicans are the party of free speech? Is there enough time to do both?
I would assume so by the amount of stuff. It's the thing you mention all the time, where at some point people forgot that while they're walking, they're also able to chew gum. It's not even that complicated of a task, but being able that somehow eludes people the ability to acknowledge two things at once, which is both of them are terrible, and what you're seeing now, running to the other one in protest of the other, just exposes, hey, they're
Because I kind of find it like incredible. Jimmy in particular, either you don't do any research, or you know this, but you just, for your own purposes, leave it out. But you're literally doing a live stream the other day. By the way, after all these people got killed in Buffalo, you're doing a live stream glorifying Marjorie Taylor Greene, a white supremacist, by the way, who literally spoke at a white supremacy conference. Literally, Marjorie Taylor Greene spoke at a white supremacy conference. You're propping up Marjorie Taylor Greene as somehow more anti-war than Democrats, and you leave out that tiny detail that she just fucking invested in Lockheed Martin 5 minutes before the war between Russia and Ukraine broke out. See, that's my problem with all this, Jimmy and the rest of them. There doesn't seem to be any consistent principles here, right? There doesn't seem to be any core consistent principles. There seems to be a laser focus on one party, I guess, under the guise of, well, why bother focusing on the Republican Party? Everybody knows that. So so if everybody knew Hitler was bad, should we not focus on Hitler being a brutal psychopath because everybody knew it? Yeah, everybody knows a lot of things. That doesn't make it okay to ignore it. It doesn't make it okay, because there's a lot of people who watch these channels who don't know any better, not because they're dumb, but because, we're working multiple jobs. Our information comes from YouTube hosts who actually, by the laser 99% focus on, the Democratic Party is this, the Democratic Party is that, the Democratic Party is this, they actually think Ron DeSantis is for free speech. They actually think that Republicans are less censorious. It just came out in leaked tapes with Kevin McCarthy, the leader of the House GOP, that after January 6th, he was on phone calls saying, how do we get these pro-Trump Republicans who were defending him, how do we get them removed from Twitter? Meanwhile, Kevin McCarthy, the same one that in private was saying, hey, how do we get these Republicans removed from Twitter? He's ranting about Democrats being the party of censorship. And to be clear, this is not a defense of the Democrats. They are totally wanting to silence their enemies. Silicon Valley is basically a revolving door of the Democratic Party. executives at Twitter have worked for the DCCC. One of the executives at Twitter in communications was a Kamala Harris aide. Facebook is run by a lot of Democrats. Obviously, Biden is running this Ministry of Truth position, which really has striking similarities to like the Committee on American Activities back in the day. So Democratic Party, they're absolutely right. Glenn, Jimmy, they're absolutely right. Democratic Party seems to be very gung-ho about censorship. The problem is when, blinders, earmuffs on fascist, white supremacists, autocrat Republicans. I truly cannot believe that somebody would call themselves free speech absolutists, right? That people would call themselves free speech absolutists, anti-censorship in all cases, yet don't think it's a big enough story to cover or tweet about, that the governor of Florida, who, other than Trump, might be the Republican nominee, might be president one day, has literally just pushed a law to ban protest outside politicians' homes, basically. Never seemed to cover the fact that he was pushing a law to make allow drivers to run over protesters in Florida. They clearly they did not cover at all the Don't Say Gay bill that they normalized. You have to start wondering why. Could it be that a lot of their audience is right-wingers and they've gravitated to building an audience of right-wingers? I don't know. When I look at channels like Jimmy's and others, most of the videos aren't on left things. For a while, he was doing 20, 30 videos on COVID a week, pushing out a lot of non-factual bullshit. I think I saw one video like on forced to vote. When I was out there covering the John Deere strikes, hospital workers striking, Starbucks workers trying to organize a union, Amazon workers trying to organize a union for a year, I didn't see those videos on channels like Jimmy. And this isn't just about Jimmy. There's a whole lot of others just like him. They are the real leftists. People like me were shit libs. Yeah. They're the real leftists, ignoring this from Ron DeSantis. They're the real leftists, ignoring Tucker Carlson's white replacement insanity. If those are the real leftists you want to follow, have a ball. Because you're following them to the right. And by the way, Jimmy, a clip came out earlier today. Jimmy saying that what did he say? I actually wrote it down. If you're the anti-war person, you should have voted for Trump and the Republicans. That's what this means. If you're pro-war, you vote for Joe Biden and the Democrats, in reference to Biden now sending troops into Somalia. So we can't just criticize and condemn Biden sending troops into Somalia, which he should absolutely be criticized for. There's no reason in the world we should be sending troops to Somalia. But yeah, we should then say, hey, if you're anti-war, you should have voted for the Republicans and Trump. Yeah, that anti-war Trump, who armed Ukraine, who dropped bombs on Syria, who, by the way, increased troops in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria, by the way, who increased troops and funding to NATO, who attempted a failed coup to oust Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, who assassinated Iran's General Commander Soleimani, who, it just came out, was asking his defense secretary if we could bomb Mexico, who vetoed a bipartisan resolution to end the U.S. involvement in Saudi Arabia's genocide on Yemen. Yeah, that anti-war Trump and Republican Party. By the way, the same Republican Party that's been pushing for war against Iran since I've been alive. This is really the toxicity that's been going on for a while now with people I used to respect that are wink, 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 wink. No, 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 no. I'm not for Trump. I'm not for the Republicans. Wink, wink. Let me just talk about the Democrats 100% of the time and ignore and recharacterize the Republican Party as anti-war and free speech. By the way, Trump armed Ukraine. To those who said today, if Trump was president, we wouldn't be in this situation. Yeah. So let me get something straight here. Trump, who has bowed down to Putin for many years, not because there was collusion. I've been saying bullshit on Russiagate forever, but for more simple reasons, which anyone with a brain knew, because Trump's biggest real estate customer is Russian oligarchs. Anybody in New York knows that. That's why Trump was playing footsie with Putin as president and before he became president, because his biggest customers in real estate are Russia, and because Trump had ties to the mob, which also had ties to Russian oligarchs. So let me get something straight. Trump, if Russia and Putin wanted to invade Ukraine, which why would Putin not want to invade Ukraine? Because Trump was still president. Again, Trump, as president, gave more money and troops to NATO countries. Let me repeat. Trump, as president, gave more money and troops to NATO countries. Trump, as president, increased troops in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. Not exactly like what Russia would want, particularly on NATO, but Trump would somehow stop Russia from invading Ukraine. Trump somehow would try to negotiate it quickly with Russia when he basically does whatever Russia wants, not because he's in collusion with Russia, but because it's in his financial business interests. He would fight Putin on this? Honestly, people, watch whatever you want. I'm not telling you not to watch things, but you're being sold a bill of goods by a bunch of grifters. And when you actually call them out on the facts, their only response, shitlib. Sheepdogging people into the Democratic Party. Yeah, I'm sheepdogging people into the Democratic Party. Well, I'm not going to minimize Republican white supremacy, Republicans trying to outlaw protests, Republicans trying to create election police. I'm not going to ignore that. If you want to watch channels that will, have at it, but I'm not going to. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at it tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern. We are going to have a members call either on Thursday or early next week. So you'll hear about that. We just got to confirm a few things. So please, the footage we showed you today, the interviews by Lewis, the footage in DC, that is all funded through you. We want to do more on the ground reporting in Texas and DC and elsewhere. We want to hire more freelancers, but we need to grow. You can help us grow by becoming a member. StatusCoup.com/join. StatusCoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 a month. It makes a huge difference as a member. You also get to join us on our members call through Zoom. We have a members Discord, which we got to get more active. We got to get people talking in the Discord. I'm going to get into the Discord after this. So if you are a member, get into the Discord so I can chat with you right after this. And we have to grow these numbers to be able to fund more reporting on labor unions and the building of unions and union organizing, strikes, and everything else we cover, from water contamination, homelessness, corruption, you name it. We want to cover it, but we need your help. So please sign up, StatusCoup.com/join, become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Makes a huge difference. See you again tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern.